In earlier classes, we had already discussed about parapet, lintel, sunshade, and all those things. We'll just have a quick look at all those components of a building, and then we just started discussing about National Building Code. You need to understand that when we are revising, we are just going through the same definitions. So, building code or building control is a set of rules that specify the minimum standard for constructed objects such as building and non-building structure. So this building code is actually a provision which provides a minimum standard for the construction objects and the method of construction and all other things for a building or a non-building structure. The main purpose is to protect public health, safety, and general welfare as they are related to the construction and occupancy of the building. So why we have a building code is that the main objective is to protect the public health and safety. Suppose the main thing that comes under National Building Code is actually the distance between two buildings and the space to be provided between two buildings, and all other things will come under. So Aaron Thomas is present, right, from CDS? Okay. If we are constructing a building, we need to provide some space on all for each room, for toilet, for kitchen, and all other provisions will be there. So all these things are done in order to ensure the safety of the occupants. So you need to understand that this building code gives all information. Yesterday we had discussed about different groups building based on the occupancy, based on the fire resistance capacity, based on the height. There are several classifications, and also for each of the groups there will be some defined parameters or defined dimensions according to which the construction activity should be carried out. So the main purpose is to protect public health, safety, and general welfare as they are related to the construction occupancy of the building. Next is building code conserves energy. So building code protects the future home purchasers who deserve reasonable assurance about the safety of the home. Suppose if you want to purchase a home or you want to purchase an apartment, so if the building code, if that building is constructed as per the National Building Code, then the buyer gets an assurance that all the provisions has been carried out, all the checks has been done, and all the safety measures has been done. Suppose maybe fire hazard or something, all those things has been done as per the National Building Code. So it ensures the safety of the occupants, so that the buyer can assure it while they're buying a property. That property is constructed as per the National Building Code. So this building code protects the future home purchasers who deserve reasonable assurance about the safety of the home. You know that buying a home is not a small thing. So if you are investing something, that should give us an assurance that the money spent on that is worth of it. So this if a building is constructed as per the National Building Code, the buyer will get an assurance that there won't be any problems in the future. So the next is like the code followed in India's National Building Code, and it is by BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards. And in each country there will be different building codes. In India, it's known as National Building Code, and it is formulated by Bureau of Indian Standards. So NBC is a comprehensive code to provide guidelines for regulating the building activities across the country. As we have discussed earlier, this provides the guidelines for regulating the building activities all across the country. So whichever building we are going to construct, all those buildings should adhere to National Building Code. So it was introduced by Planning Commission of India to unify and standardize the construction practice in the country soon after the third 5-year plan. So you might have heard about the 5-year plans that we have been adopting since our independence. So this was actually introduced. National Building Code was actually introduced by the Planning Commission of India in the third 5-year plan. Third 5-year plan, so that there will be some standard for construction in the country, and there will be some code to refer while we are planning a building or while we are constructing a building. So the third 5-year plan was from 1961 to 1966. So the main thing that stressed was like that the main stress was on agricultural improvement in the production of wheat, and other provisions included the formulation of building codes for the country, and it asked all the states to ensure that all the states should have a separate building code depending upon the weather conditions of that particular state, especially if the building code which is specific for Kerala will be different for that in some other states. So as per the national building code, as per the planning commission, the national building code was introduced in the third 5-year plan. So you need to understand all these things, why we have introduced a national building code. So in India, each municipality and urban development authority has its own building codes, mandatory for all constructions in their jurisdiction. Why we are in India, each municipality and urban development authority. So the conditions or the weather conditions or the environment conditions for each municipality and urban development will be different. So what happens is like they will have to make some small changes from the basic provisions mentioned by the National Building Code. Suppose, as I earlier said, the Kerala Building Regulations Act will be different from that of Tamil Nadu, will be different from that of Maharashtra. So each state or each urban development authority will have different conditions to be followed. Even if we follow the building codes provided by the Greater Cochin Development Authority, it will be different from that provided from the Kannur Corporation provisions, because the soil conditions in Kochi is far different from that what is available at in Kannur. So it will have small changes from one place to another. So all these things, the main reference will be the National Building Code. From there, we'll take the provisions and we will make necessary changes depending upon the conditions of a particular area. So all these are the variants of NPC. And next is like the preparation of NPC was entrusted to Bureau of Indian Standards, as we have discussed earlier. Bureau of Indian Standards is the bureau or the organization which provides the standards for any thing manufactured in India or anything which is being constructed in India. We have the provisions related to concrete, steel, steel manufacturing, even our electronic goods manufacturing, then gold ornaments. So Bureau of Indian Standards as a code for each and everything that is being manufactured or produced in India. So when we are designing or when we are manufacturing a product, we'll have to adhere to the standards mentioned for the particular product by the Bureau of Indian Standards. So the preparation of NPC was actually entrusted to the Bureau of Indian Standards, and NPC was first published in 1970 at the instance of Planning Commission and then first revised in 1983. So even though it was introduced in the third 5-year plan, the third 5-year plan started in 1961 and ended in 1966. Even though it was started in the first third 5-year plan in 1961, it was first published in 1970. So you might, I think you will know what is meant by a 5-year plan. So in India, after the independence, there was a necessity that there was some planning to be done for the development. So the leaders at that time, they introduced several 5-year plans, so which was similar to that introduced by the USSR at that time, the Soviet Union at that time. We just took their we just copied what they have done during their formation, during the formation of Soviet Union, and they had introduced this 5-year and 6-year plans. So they will give they will get a target. So within the next 5 years, we will do this much things. So since India was a new country and it was a union of several states and other small princely states, there was a necessity to give a common code for everything. So this led to the formation of National Building Code in the third 5-year plan. In the first and second 5-year plan, mainly emphasized on agriculture and food security and road development, all those things came. So each 5-year plan will have some specific objective. The objective will be defined before the starting of the 5-year plan. Generally, what is done is like um, each 5-year we will revise our objective and we will uh, define what all things need to be done in the next 5 years. So NBC was introduced in third 5-year plan, and but it was published in 1970, and then it was revised in 1983. Thereafter, the major amendments were issued to the 1983 version, two in 1987, and the third in 1997. So the second revision of the code was in 2005, to which two amendments were issued in 2015. So you need to understand the basic thing. It's a basic history of NBC. You need not remember all those things. Just remember these years where it was, when it was amended, when it was revised, all those things. So the National Building Code of 2016 is the latest one. You can see that chart. The first publication was in 1970, and the first revision was in 1983. There were two consecutive amendments, one in 1987 and the other in 1997. And there was a second revision in 2015. And in 2005 and in 2015, there were two other amendments. And the latest one was published in 2016. So actually, in National Building Code, we will have several parts. So all these parts have been specified. So if you look at this part 0, so part 0 is actually integrated approach prerequisite for applying provisions of the code. So when we are defining some provisions, there should be some prerequisite for applying. We should define on what all buildings these provisions are applied. So there are some things that have been that need to be defined well before we are defining our code. So that's actually part 0. We'll have some prerequisite. You need to understand some basic things before applying these codes. That's what I meant by prerequisite. And next is part 1 is definition. So there will be several terminologies as I explained earlier. We'll define the several parts of a building. We'll define several areas like floor area, plinth area. So there are several definitions. So all these definitions are included in part 1. And in part 2, there is some administration. So who all are responsible for this type of construction, who all are responsible for giving the signature, all those things will come under part 2. And in which jurisdiction does this code apply, that will also be defined in part 2. And part 3, development control rules and general building requirements will be defined in part 3. And in part 4, in part 3, like development control rules, so that will be applicable to a community or a township, where when we want to develop that community or a township, we need to follow several rules and regulations. Like it should not there should be sufficient gap between the road and the building, and between the building there should be some gap. There should be provision for fire exit. All those things will be like development control rules, and it should not harm the basic environment aesthetic of that particular area. All those things will be developed in development control rules. And next is like general building requirements. We will define a general building and what will be the requirements of that building. Suppose if you are going to construct a bus terminal, we will have to define what number of buses can enter the bus terminal at a time. How many people can be accommodated at the peak time, and what are the amenities should be provided. How many number of toilets should be provided? What should be the space? What should be the number of seatings? All those things will be defined for that particular bus terminal. And similarly, if you are defining a residential building, we will see what should be the minimum size of bedrooms, what should be the size of the ventilation, what should be the size of windows, doors, what should be the where should be the toilet be located, or the septic tank should be at a specific distance from the well. So all those things we will define for a residential building. And similarly, for industrial building or commercial building, all these provisions will be defined. So actually, all these general building requirements will be, and the development control rules are found in part 3 of National Building Code. And in part 4, it mainly focus on fire and life safety. Fire and life safety means what are the provisions should be provided in order to avoid any fire hazard, and even if some fire hazard happens, in what ways we can rescue the occupants of that area, and in what ways we can reduce the impact of that fire hazard onto the building. And other life safety measures, like you might if you're giving a parapet wall, as we have discussed earlier, or some balconies, there should be some safety grills provided, and we should also ensure that even if some fire hazard happens, people should be able to be rescued from the balcony, so it should not be fully closed. So there should be a provision so that they can stand there safely in a normal condition, and if some fire hazard happens, they can also be rescued easily. So all those things related to fire and life safety, and especially electrical safety, even the slippery floor, if a floor is too slippery, that can affect the health of the occupants. If it is very slippery, then the basic function of the floor is not carried out there. So this part 4 focuses on the fire and life safety of the occupants. And in part 5, we will define the building materials. That means what are the standards and the specifications of the materials which are used for the construction, like sand, cement, steel, or any other thing, or even our ceramic tiles, the plumbing and electrical units. What are the standards to be followed? All these things will be defined in part 5. In that, we'll specifically we'll give only this type of cement with other to this quality shall be used for the construction. The minimum standard of steel should be something like this, and the ceramic tiles used for flooring should be of this provision. So all these things shall be defined in part 5, the building materials. And in part 6, this will it's quite a vast code. In part 6, mainly we will focus on structural design. So earlier we had just focused about the general requirements and all other things. In part 6, it will be a complex analysis. Even though you need not study all those things, as per our syllabus, you just need to have a basic knowledge on National Building Code and Kerala Building rules and regulations. So these parts you need not study in detail. In part 6, we will be dealing with the structural design. That means we'll first define the loads, force, and effects. Then the soil and foundation. In section 3, timber and bamboo. Like 3A will be timber, 3B bamboo. Section 4 will be masonry. Section 5 concrete. So this will be a little more in detailed written document where we will define what are the loads that may act on a building, and what are the force, and how it is going to affect the building, and how it is going to affect the stability of the building. So we will have to take that load for our construction. So when we plan suppose when we plan a waiting shed, it will be a small waiting shed. So what are the loads that can act on a waiting shed? It might be a bus waiting shed. So there can be a wind force acting on it. That wind force will try to pull the roof, or blow off the roof of the waiting shed. So what should be the wind to be considered? Maximum velocity of the wind, what should be considered? What should be the rain force considered? And if some impact happens from the vehicles, that waiting should not collapse. So what should be the impact from the vehicle to be calculated, and how it's going to affect the stability of the structure, and what will be the depth of the foundation to be provided. All those things we have to refer to NBC to take the loads and forces. And even though if we are constructing a high-rise building, let it be a 10-story residential building, we'll have to see what are the forces acting, The main forces that might act on a 10-story residential building might be a wind force or any other earthquake loads, all those things, how it's going to affect the building and stability. As per that, we will design the columns. We will fix the size of the columns. We'll fix how much steel bars should be used and what is the arrangement of the steel bars to be provided. So all these things will come under this part 6. And you can see it in detail, like in section 2, soil and foundation. Section 3 will define timber and bamboo construction. Section 4 will be masonry construction. Section 5, concrete construction, and that will be defined and be subdivided into plain and reinforced concrete. So this plain concrete will come basically when we are giving some concrete floors. And in reinforced concrete, that means we'll be providing some steel bars in that. We'll be reinforcing our concrete with steel bars. That will be reinforced concrete will be used for constructing our slabs, beams, columns, etc. While plain cement concrete will be used for giving our ground floors, or you can see our pavements or parking lots. Even though it is said that it's a plain concreting, we will provide a minimum steel reinforcement just to take the stresses. That it's a quite detailed thing. There will be some temperature stresses acting on any concrete structure, so it can expand or contract. So we will provide some steel bars so that the expansion contraction will be taken by the steel bars. So even though we say that our pavements, all our parking lot, the concrete that we provide on our parking lot, or even roads, concrete that we provide on the roads are all plain cement concrete. We'll provide a minimum reinforcement to that plain cement concrete. And in reinforced concrete, and the thing is, like, while we are computing the strength of plain cement concrete, we won't include the strength provided by the steel bars. But for a reinforced concrete, we will design this number of steel bars to be used, and we will while computing the strength of the concrete, we will include the strength taken by the steel bars also. So that's a basic difference between plain and reinforced cement concrete. Even though we say that there is no reinforcement to be provided in plain concrete, in practical case, we will provide a minimum reinforcement for plain concrete also. So you might have noticed in concrete roads where you can see some steel bars that are being projecting outwards. So all these things were just a minimum reinforcement which are given. And in the reinforced concrete, we'll design the number of steel bars and how they are arranged, all those things. And in pre-stressed concrete is another concept where you might have noticed where, especially in bridges nowadays or in metro, while we are constructing metros, we'll provide a huge beams. So pre-stressed concrete is used wherever we cannot construct or concrete in situ. That means we cannot place the concrete at that particular site. So we will precast it from somewhere else, and we will bring it via large vehicles, and we will place it. This is known as pre-stressed concrete. And if you notice the electric post, the concrete electric posts that are being placed along the roads, all these electric posts also belong to this pre-stressed concrete. So you can see that these electric posts are being cast from some other place, from their casting yards, and they will be transported and they will be placed along the road. So these things are the plain and reinforced concrete and pre-stressed concrete. So I hope you've understood the difference between plain concrete, reinforced concrete, and pre-stressed concrete. Is Harsha Muralidharan here?
Yes, sir.
Harsha, could you please explain what is meant by a plain concrete, reinforced concrete, and pre-stressed concrete with an example each to your friends?
Plain concrete is the cement which we which we like we only have sand in it, and we don't use steel or any kind of other stuffs.
Okay, theoretically we won't use any steel, but
Huh.
in practical cases we'll provide a minimum steel in
Okay.
that. And what about, can you give an example where we are using plain concrete?
Um, uh, um,
In pavements, have you noticed where there are concrete roads?
yeah. Okay.
Okay, so all those things we will be using plain concrete, and also um, near our ground floor, we'll provide a plain concrete.
Okay.
Okay, then about reinforced concrete, what is meant by reinforced concrete?
Hello.
Yeah, just tell me what is meant by reinforced concrete.
It's where we use steel.
Okay, we'll be designing the number of steels and what is the spacing between the steel bars and where it is applied. Slab, column, beam, all those structural components where it is necessary to carry the loads. So wherever it is necessary to carry the loads, take the loads, we'll be providing reinforced concrete there. Understood?
Hello, sir.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. And what about pre-stressed concrete? A pre-stressed concrete, I'll ask Jishnu. Jishnu P. Is Jishnu here? Thank you, Harsha. Is Jishnu P here?
Thank you, sir.
Jishnu P. Jishnu P. Joel Jos. Am I audible first of all?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Joel. Can you hear me? Joel, could you please respond whether you are audible? Are you not able to use your mic? Okay, wait, I'll call someone else. Is Matthew Abhijit here? Matthew Abhijit. Matthew Abhijit. First of all, am I audible? Can anyone respond?
Yes, sir.
Was the who responded to me? Is it Talla?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Talla Anas, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Talla, could you please explain what is meant by a pre-stressed concrete and where it is used?
Okay, sir. Pre-stirred concrete,
Uh,
concrete used in construction.
where pre-stressed concrete. What is meant by pre-stressed concrete and where it is used? As a typical example, if you look in front of your home, you can see the electric post. So that
Yes.
electric post is not. Have you ever seen they are concreting some electric post? No, right? Because they are
No, sir.
doing it from a casting yard, and they will cast it from their yard, and they will bring it uh, with the help of some trucks, and they will place electric post along the roadside. So
Okay, sir.
electric post is typical example for a precess concrete, and also this some beams for large metro rails or bridges. So all those things are also example for precess concrete, where actually it is very difficult to concrete at that particular site. If we are going to suppose, an example, if it's a busy junction and we want to construct a flyover or a bridge over there, it will be very difficult for us to carry out the operation, since it can affect the smooth traffic flow and can lead to a lot of trouble. So in such
Okay, sir.
situation, what we do is like we will cast these parts at different locations, and we will bring it, and when especially during night, we will assemble it, and we'll make the bridge. So that's the process that is being used, and such type of components that are being cast in somewhere else and bring to the site is known as precess concrete. And there is something to be in detail we need to study, but all these things will not affect you. And Chandana, for Sky, Chandana, could you please use your mic and ask? Uh, See, it's very
Yes, sir.
okay.
Do we use
Okay, ask.
pre-stressed concrete for skyscrapers, like for tall
Uh,
buildings?
Not necessarily, because what happens is like in tall buildings, we have another equipments that will help us in concreting. So this precess concrete are mainly used in bridges and other things where we can easily transport. Just imagine transporting huge components, and how we are going to place all these things in a skyscraper. It will be too difficult. Like since it is a high-rise building, it will be too difficult for us to place these components, since it will be very heavy. Understand? So this
Oh, okay.
okay. There might be some other provisions, but as of now, we are not using precise concrete in skyscrapers, because we have this huge pumps which can be used to pump concrete to high levels. Understood? So we will use this huge
Yes, sir.
pumps, just like we pump the water to the top floor. We can just pump the concrete when it is mixed, and we will just pump it, and we will place the concrete on the top of a skyscraper. So precise concrete are not generally used in skyscrapers, where we can, but where we can transport it easily. If there's a provision to transport the heavy components of a precise concrete, we can easily do that. And Siddharth have asked something. Siddharth, could you please use your mic and ask?
Sir, why can't we use pre-stressed concrete always instead of plain and reinforced?
Because actually, first thing is it will be costlier than a normal concreting procedure. That's the main thing why we are not using pre-stressed concrete always. And pre-stressing actually requires a more skilled labors than what we use in general construction sites. So, so if we are going to construct a building, it's always preferred to cast inside too. That means at that site itself, we will mix the concrete and we can place. So that's actually the best method preferred in constructing a building. Um, Another thing is, as I've earlier said, it will be too difficult for us to transport, because construction site uh, in this precise concrete will have to schedule the construction time. Especially, we can't do it during daytime. we'll have to rely only during a night time where there is less traffic. If you are going to construct a pre-stressed bridge using a pre-stressed concrete technology where we are transporting this pre-stressed beam from somewhere else. So yeah, so but if you want to carry out the construction activity throughout a day, it will be too difficult for us to transport all these things. Understand? So it can cause a lot of trouble while transporting and placing. That's why we are not using it generally. And another thing is like it will be too costly, and the skilled labors will be required. And in some parts, as we have earlier said, if it's a small building, people have started to make a separate blocks of pre-stressed concrete. That's known as prefabricated construction. There's a small difference between this prefabricated construction and pre-stressed concrete. So pre-stressed concrete actually, we are stressing the steel bars placed inside the concrete, and we are giving a strength before actually applying the load. So there's actually a complex terminology. There are some calculations to be done. So the basic thing you understand is why we are not using pre-stressed concrete always is that it's costlier, and also the transportation difficulties there. But we are constructing a bridge. It's always ideal to transport it, to bring it from somewhere else and carry on the construction activities at night. Understood, Siddharth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are the three different types of concrete that we have discussed, and there will be we can discuss it in detail in the second module. And in second module, we'll have a separate section in which we'll be discussing about the materials to be used for construction. So in that section, I think we can discuss it about in detail. So I hope everyone understood the basic idea of this what's meant by plain, reinforced, and pre-stressed concrete, and some examples for that. And we are discussing about the part 6 of National Building Code. So part 6 contains the part 5 of section 5 of part 6 contains concrete, and section 6 will contain steel. So steel means you need to understand that not only the steel what we are using inside the concrete, but also there are some cases where instead of concrete itself we can use steel. As you might have seen, steel bridges are there. There are some steel buildings also. Example, Eiffel Tower is actually purely constructed of steel. There are several buildings that are being that are being constructed in steel nowadays, because it is the time of construction is less. As I said earlier, we can actually design and manufacture the steel beams or steel components from some place, and we can transport it, and we can just assemble it at the site. So the time of construction required will be very less. So there are several bridges that are being constructed using steel, and also nowadays some high-rise buildings are also being constructed using steel, because the time of construction is very less and compared with concrete construction. But the thing is, like, it will be costly. As you know, the cost of steel is very high. When we want to replace concrete, reinforced concrete with pure steel, the cost will always go up. But yeah, but if you want to save time, it's always better to construct using steel. And next section 7 describes about prefabrication. That's what I was talking earlier. Even if it's steel, timber, or concrete, or anything, any construction material, we'll fabricate it from somewhere else, and then we will bring it all together to a site, and then we will assemble it. That method is known as prefabrication. And section 7 also contains about systems building and mixed composite construction. Mixed composite construction means in some places we will mix steel and concrete, or steel and brick masonry and concrete. So there will be some cases where you might have noticed while in some small residential houses, the concrete pillars or columns will be casted, and the size of that concrete pillar will be small, and then we will cover the outer edge using brick. So that's also an example for this composite construction. Composite means when there are two or more different materials which are being used for construction. That's known as composite construction. So the section 7 will describe, will give us an idea and other specifications about prefabrications and system building and mixed or composite construction. And in section 8, we will it will define about glass and glazing. And in section 8, when we talk about this glass and glazing, you need to understand that the type of glass that are being used at different parts of a building will be different. Especially, you might have noticed that if you want to provide a glass door, the quality of the and the thickness and the quality of the glass door will be different from that of a normal glass window. So the type of glass to be used will also be different, and it will be similar to when we want to provide a glass door. It is dangerous to provide it with the material that are the same quality of glass that are being used for windows, because once it breaks, what happens is like it can hurt humans or the occupants. And a few months back, I guess in somewhere in Kottayam or Ernakulam, there was an accident happened in a bank. They provided a glass door with a normal window glass. So what happened was like one lady was moving forward and she didn't notice that there was a glass door, and she just go and hit the glass door. And what happened was like the glass door break and it injured her, and she lost her life. So that's actually very dangerous to provide glass that are being intended to use for glass windows as glass doors. So there will be separate glass quality of glass to be used for glass doors. So that even though someone hits that, it won't hurt them. It will just break apart and it will fall as small pieces, just like our vehicle windows. The glass used in vehicle windows, it won't hurt us. It will just break apart. So the quality of glass and the glazing to be used will also be defined by National Building Code, Section 8 and Part 6. At what all places the quality of glass to be used. In windows, the quality of glass to be used, the thickness should be something like this. For doors, glass doors, the thickness of glass panel to be used is something like this. So all these things will be defined in Section 8. So this is actually in Volume 1, and we'll be moving to Volume 2. So in Volume 1, there will be Part 0 to Part 6, and then Volume 2, it will be Part 7 to Part 12. So if an essay is being asked for your university exam regarding National Building Code, you can just write this, you can just reproduce all these things, and you don't write in detail, just give an idea about what are the parts mentioned, what are the specifications mentioned in each part. So in Volume 2, Part 7, it's actually construction management practices and safety. So you all know that once construction activity is being carried out, we'll have to follow some specific practices for safety and the construction management, how things are being arranged and how labor and materials are supplied, how they are managed. So all these things will be mentioned in Part 7, and all the safety precautions to be used. What are the type of helmet to be used? Helmet, what are the type of vest, what's the type of safety shoes to be used in a construction site, and what all things can be done to ensure that no one falls from the building during construction, and nothing rolls from the top floor to someone standing below. So all these provisions will come in Part 6 in practices, construction management practices and safety. And in Part 8, what happens is like building services. Building services means ventilation, air condition, ventilation, acoustics, sound installation, noise control. All these things will come under building services. So in Section 1, in Part 8, we'll be dealing with lighting and natural ventilation. So how the window should be aligned, how so that proper light and air will come inside the building, and what is the minimum size of windows to be done, to be given in specific rooms. It will be different in for kitchen. It will be different in bedrooms. It will be different in bathrooms. It will be different in living rooms. And um, if it's a industrial building, it will be different in different from that of a residential building. So section 1 will deal with lighting and natural ventilation. Section 2 will deal with electrical and allied installation. That means what are the switches should be given, what's the standard of the switches or the electrical wiring to be given, what's the maximum load that can be given at a particular point, and we will define some points also. Points means from where we can take the power to one of our appliances. What are the appliances that can be provided? What's the maximum load that can be given? All these things will be defined in section 2. And in section 3, it deals with air conditioning, heating, and mechanical ventilation. So we can just blindly give some air conditioning units in some places. We'll have to see whether it is efficient or cost saving, or whether it's unwanted. So we have to see, and if suppose like there will be some provision for us, like if it's a non-air conditioned room, the height of the room will be something around 3 or 3.5 meter, and if it's an air conditioned room, the height of the room can be reduced, because air conditioning law will purify the air within that unit. And what is the maximum size of the room in which a 1 ton AC can be used to give air conditioning, and all these things, like what is the heating, mechanical ventilation, all these things will be mentioned in section 3. And in section 4 deals the acoustic, sound insulation, noise control. So it's very necessary that the outside noise should not come inside a building, especially if it's very close to some highways or some busy streets. The outside noise should not come inside the building. So acoustic sound insulation, noise control will come under section 4, and we'll talk about this acoustics. So it will be different for different type of building. Suppose if it's a movie theater, it is necessary that we should provide a particular acoustic that it should not produce some reverberation or echoing inside a cinema hall. So it will harm our film viewing experience. So it is necessary that there should not be any echo or reverberation that's happening inside a cinema hall. That's why you might have noticed why most of the walls of the cinema halls they are fitted with some sound insulating materials. Some might be some wooden works in which there will be some small holes given. So what happens is, like, these holes will absorb the sound waves and it will not allow it to reflect back. So if you are providing a smooth surface, what happens is, like, the sound waves will hit the smooth surface and will come back and will produce echo. So generally the surface of a cinema hall will be it will be rough. That means they will provide some rough surface on the surface of the cinema halls, so that it won't cause any echoing. But if we move on to a church or a mosque or any other temple or something, you can notice that it is always better to provide the surface with a smooth finish, so that it will produce a small echoing, and it can improve improve the experience. That means it will give a humming sound along with that, and it can improve the experience. So all these things are related with acoustics, and it will be different for cinema halls. It will be different for a normal auditorium where functions are being happening. So it's necessary that maybe in some places there will be a small echo is necessary, especially what I've talked about, some religious places where some religious ceremonies are happening, and it can improve, or in some musical theaters some echo is necessary, while in some cinema halls echoing is not actually recommended. So it can there are different hearing perspectives that I mentioned. So according to that, we will design the soundproof and echoing and acoustic property of a building. So section 4 will deal with all those things, and it will be mentioned in that as I've talked earlier. In cinema halls, the surface should be something like this. And in some other places, the surface should be smooth. So all these things will be mentioned in this volume 2, part 8, section 4. And in section 5, we will deal with the installation of lift, escalator, and moving walks. Moving walks means it's actually a horizontal moving walk. You might have seen in some airports or in some metros where we can stand there, and instead of if escalators actually it will take us from one floor to another floor, while moving walks will just keep us moving from within the floor, and if we step on to that, it will automatically move, and we can reach some destination. So these are the moving walks, and there are some provisions for lifts, escalators, and moving walls also, and it will be defined in section 5A and 5B. And in section 6, there will be some information and communication enabled installations. That means some Wi-Fi modems or speakers or any other things that are being installed in some buildings or institutes where it should be located. So especially if we need to understand that when a Wi-Fi modem is located in some places, and we should ensure that it should give a maximum visibility to the devices. Visibility means you can understand the connectivity to devices, and it should not create any blind spot where we cannot get a signal from the Wi-Fi modem, especially, and also the speakers, it should be provided in some places. So there are some provisions to provide this information and communication enabled devices also. So all these things will be defined in section 6. And in part 9, when we move to part 9, it will be dealing with plumbing services, so including solid waste management. So plumbing devices means in section 1 there will be water supply, from where the water should supply, and in section 2, drainage and sanitation, and how the drainage is being carried out, whether it is being connected to the common drainage system, public drainage system, or we have a separate drainage system. So if it's an industrial building, it's necessary to have a separate drainage system. If because it might contain some chemicals, and we cannot mix it with the public drainage systems, so it can harm the. So public drainage system, what they will do, like they will collect the drainage from all the public places, and they will they might treat. In some cases, they might treat it, and they will just allow it to flow in some water bodies. So if it's from an industrial unit, we cannot allow the drainage from an industrial unit to mix it with the public drainage system, because there might be some harmful chemicals that are being given out from some industrial buildings. So we cannot mix it we cannot mix it with the public drainage system. So we will have to provide a separate drainage system for industrial users. But for a residential building, it's not much an issue, because there might not be some harmful chemicals that are being coming out from a residential building. And regarding the solid waste management, how they are being managed. Solid waste means it might be organic or it might be inorganic. Organic waste might come basically from their food waste, and inorganic waste, all these papers, plastics, and all those things are inorganic waste. So how they are being managed and how they are being disposed, where it should be located, where the dustbins, public dustbins shall be kept, and how it shall be removed, all those things. And section 4 will deal with the gas supply. So nowadays, what happens is, like, in many apartments, they have a common room where all these gas supply units will be kept, and from there they will provide the gas supply. So there will be some provision for that. There will be some fire extinguishing device kept near to that. Suppose fire accident happens, and how they are being distributed, all those things will deal in gas supply. So in part 9, there will be plumbing services, and in water supply, what is the minimum standard of pipes to be used, and especially if it's from a hot water, like from the water the pipe used to distribute hot water should be of some specific quality or standard. Otherwise, it can harm human health, because if we are providing just a plastic or a PVC pipe to provide to supply hot water, it can harm the health of the people who are using that. And also, need to note that the pipelines that are being used for a public water supply should be of a specific quality. People won't care about that nowadays. And earlier days we used asbestos cement pipes, and now we have found out that they are a major carcinogen substance, this asbestos cement sheets. So nowadays we are not using that anymore. Most of the water supply pipes are now being used as cement concrete pipes or steel pipes. So all those things regarding the water supply units and how they are being they should be, how they are arranged, what all appliances shall be used to supply water, what all pipeline should be used, what the quality of pipeline, all those things will be defined in section 1. And in section 2, drainage and sanitation, section 3, solid waste management, and section 4, gas supply. So all these things, plumbing services, will come under part 9. In the part 10, we'll have some thing related to landscape development, signs, outdoor display structures, etc. So like part 10, in section 1, we'll deal with the landscape planning, design and development. So how we are planning a community, what are the minimum requirements of that community. Suppose we are planning a residential community, there should be some public parks for them. There will be some leisure, there should be some place there where they can come out as a family and they can enjoy their free time. So we'll have to plan some public parks for the community. And also there should be ample parking space. There should not be much congestion. The necessary things should be available close by. So all these things will be, we have to refer to the section 1 of part 1, where they will mention the landscape planning. So it will be like, if the community size is more than 10,000, that means if more than 10,000 people live in a community, there should be a provision for a public park. The size of the park will be mentioned, and some playground should be provided. So all these things will come under landscape development. And how drainage, public drainage is being developed, all those things will also come under part 10. And the signs, and section 2 deals with signs and outdoor display structures, like the signboards, outdoor display structures, like there are some advertisements that need to be installed somewhere. So what's the size and how it should be displayed, should not affect the response time of the drivers. So all these things will be mentioned under section 2. And in part 11, it's actually the approach to sustainability. Sustainable development is the thing what we are talking about a lot nowadays. So part 11 will deal with the approach to sustainability. What are the methods to be used for a sustainable development of community, and all these things will be defined in part 11. And in part 12, asset and facility management, how management a particular thing should be managed. Suppose if it's a residential complex or an apartment building, how that things to be managed, what are the legal documents to be prepared, how it should be a responsibility to be given to the owner and the builder. All those things will be defined in part 12 of NBC. So these are the things what we discussed about NPC. So you need not study each and every part and things, like you just see what are the things mentioned in each part. Just have a quick look at all those things and just write. If an essay question is being asked on NBC, you can use this table to write in detail. So need not study in detail all these things. Just have an idea about the parts and each part what they are mentioned. So next we'll be talking about the relevance of NBC. So NBC controls ultimately all construction activities in a country. As we have discussed earlier, in a country, it's the reference will be NBC, and depending upon the um, community or the state in which we live, there'll be some changes to that basic rules and regulations. But still, the main thing what we have to follow is the NBC. And NBC provides regulations related to building construction. The states and units of our country have framed building rules and rules for firefighting, solid waste management, etc., based on NBC. So each states and union territories have also framed rules. For example, Kerala have framed a Kerala building regulations rule. So all those things, the basic reference will be based on NBC. So in the absence of state rule provisions in the absence of state rule provisions, NBC will prevail. That means if you want to construct a building in Kerala, and we have to refer to KBR, Kerala Building and Regulations Rule. And if KBR does not provide a provision for that particular building, let it be an industrial building, and KBR doesn't have that provision for that building, and then we will have to refer to NBC. So either I think first we have to refer to your particular state or union territory provisions, and then if that thing is not mentioned in that our respective state provision, we have to refer to NBC, and it will be further we'll have to refer to our corporation or municipal development committees provisions also. So first we have to refer, suppose we want to construct a house in Kannur Corporation, we have to see whether Kannur Corporation have made some specific provisions for the construction. If there is no such provisions, then we can directly refer to Kerala Building Rules. And if Kerala Building Rules doesn't also give a provision for that, we can refer to National Building Code. So that's actually the procedure to be followed. First, we have to refer to the local provisions in our area, then our state or union territory provisions, then the National Building Code. So NBC provides freedom to adopt practices, absorbing traditional practices as well as latest developments, knowledge in various disciplines. So this actually it gives some freedom. Like there are some traditional practices that are being used while for the construction before the advent of the modern construction techniques. So we can also follow them, but NBC has also given some specific provisions and practices to be followed when we are adopting old construction methods. So we have some freedom to choose whether we want to follow the new construction techniques or old construction techniques. But whatever techniques we follow, that should be mentioned in NBC. That's the only thing that we have to think about. And the last point, the information mandatory practices are available in NBC related to the following aspects: development and building planning, structural design aspects, construction asset facility management, building services, plumbing services, and solid waste management. We have discussed it in the previous slides, and we have summarized it in the last point of this slide. So next we will be talking about the building rules and regulations in Kerala. So we are being more specific into our state, and then if you want to go more specific, we can take the regulations defined by each corporation, municipality, or local self-governing department or local self-governing authority. So as per our syllabus, only two things are mentioned: the National Building Code and the Kerala Building Regulations. So we'll see what are the rules in Kerala, how it is slightly different from NBC. Depending upon the weather conditions and the type of soil, there'll be some difference. So building regulations are framed based on NBC guidelines to suit the town and country planning schemes and proposed land use patterns of a particular area. So as per our provisions for country planning and schemes and the pattern of land use, we can make some small changes in NBC. So rules are framed based on aspects like development and land use pattern, utilization of natural resources like sunlight and breeze, scope for future development of roads and public utilities, current and projected population growth, settlement patterns of people engaged in various sectors. So these rules will be framed based upon first development and land use pattern, how the development and how the land use pattern is done, like whether it's an industrial area, whether it's a residential area, whether it's a commercial area, and utilization of natural resources like sunlight and breeze to provide a better living environment, and scope for future development of roads and public utilities. So current and projected population growth, settlement patterns of people engaged in various sectors. So all these things will be taken into consideration when we are framing building regulations for a particular area. So building rules ensure quality and safety in construction. So it will ensure that the materials and the construction techniques used are of good standard, and there are no hazards happening during construction and also after construction. So it provides a legal base to authorize constructions and also for tax collecting authorities like local body institutions and revenue authorities. So what happens is like when if someone accuses the contractor or the builder about the quality of construction, he can show that he have followed NBC during construction, the National Building Code, during construction or the regulations of that particular state. And it's actually a legal document that I have followed the particular regulations and there is no mistake from my part, and these allegations are of no point. So it's actually a legal base to construction activities where we can say that we have referred our things to the building codes and regulations available and which are approved by the government, and there is no point in accusing us. There's actually legal support for the constructors. So in the building rules in Kerala, it's first started in 1964. It's known as Kerala Building Rules. In 1984, it started as it revised as Kerala Building Rules Revision. In 1999, it got renamed as Kerala Municipal Building Rules. And in 2011, it was combined Kerala Municipal Building Rules and Kerala Public Building Rules. And then there were some amendments also happened. So this is the small history of building rules. And in 64 we started with Kerala building rules. That was a common thing for all the institutes. And in 84 there was a revision, and 99 it got renamed as Kerala Municipal Building Rules. So that time what happened was like our focus was mainly based on the construction activities happening in our municipalities. And in 2011 we divided that as municipal building rules and panchayat building rules. So each building activity will have different provisions. Like in municipality, what happens is like there will be the population of a municipality will be very high. The density, population density will also be high. So there will be some relaxations for us. Like if you are constructing a house, the frontage from the road shall be like 3 meters. There will be some relaxation for us in the municipality. In panchayat it will be relaxed because in panchayat means the density of population will be less, the proximity of buildings will not be so close as we see in a municipality. So depending on all those things, there will be some changes in all these dimensions. Like the basic thing what we need to understand is like the spacing on all 4 sides of a building with the boundary of the plot. So there will be some difference in that values from if we consider municipal building rules and panchayat building rules. And in 2019 there were some amendments. And as per the KMBR 2019, we have several chapters. In chapter 1, the basic definition. In chapter 2, drawing, permit, and occupancy certificates. So in chapter 3, general provisions, all those things. I hope we can discuss about KMBR in the coming class. I hope everyone have understood today's class. What we are discussing was mainly based on a National Building Code and how we are defining all those things. So I hope everyone have understood today's class, and yeah, next thing we'll discuss next class. So thank you all.